Hey, how you guys doing today? Dark Matter here with a video guide for my hardcore whirlwind barbarian. This is going to be the 1 through 50-ish guide, and I'm really excited about this build as most builds that I run. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. We'll start with the skill tree. Again, as I said, this is going to be for 1 to 55-ish or 50, somewhere in there, until you get the Ramalotni's magnum opus. So for right now, where this is a starter build, sort of. We start with combat lunging strike that grants us berserking for 1.5 seconds, and as you can see, berserking grants 25% increased damage and 15% movement speed for 5 seconds. Very important. Berserking is very important to this build. And of course, whirlwind is what we do our main damage with. That gains fury each time you deal direct damage, and 4 times the fury on elites, which is beautiful. Of course, we are going with the bleed version. I know a lot of people like to take this one. It has lots more damage, but this is hardcore mode. More damage isn't always best. And we'll go over why that is in a moment here. We get down here, we get 15 multiple additional maximum life. That is amazing. Rallying Cry, this is super important. This gets us resource regeneration and movement speed. And of course, Unstoppable, very important. This gets us out of crowd control and keeps us alive. Of course, we gain more fury with this. We take Challenging Shout, which gives us a massive amount of damage reduction and a multiple to life and fury as well. That's why we take Tactical. And this here, movement speed. Movement speed is so important for a Whirlwind Barbarian. Reason being is because when you're faster, you can cover more ground while you're channeling Whirlwind, which gives you a higher area of effect for more damage per second. So we like to crank that up as high as we can. That means we take movement speed on our amulet as well as our boots to take advantage of these things. And you want to do that as early as possible. I mean, I would even go so far as to say movement speed is the most important um, stat for barbarians, at least for me. I'm kind of crazy about movement speed, though. I like a fast style. Anyways, I digress. Um, so yeah, we take Warcry for an additional source of berserking and fortify. We take this to extend the duration of our shouts by a great deal. This will help keep an uptime on our shouts as well, because the cooldown starts when you hit the button, not when the effect is up. And this gives us more damage reduction over here. And we take this for more fury generation here. This gives us more critical strike damage against immobilized, stunned, or slowed enemies. And to take advantage of that, we put 1 tick in a hamstring, which makes everything we hit with whirlwind or whatever slowed. That's bleeding. See, that's another reason we take bleeding right there. We take this. I'll get into this more later. That enables us to basically leave mobs at half or quarter health and they'll just die. This here, very important because we're going to be running at full fortify a lot, and that's a 12% multiple damage, which is, of course, huge. And here we take Wrath of the Berserker for another form of Unstoppable and Berserking, which will give us even more fury for this one, as you can see. For every fury you spend, you get more berserking damage, and of course, you gain, you know, more movement speed and fury generation. It's a very wonderful ability. Now here's where it differs from my end game build. We're using the maces, so we're taking advantage of these great passives down here. This one is awesome. It stuns enemies constantly. Stun, I believe, is very important. And this gives us more critical strike damage. And down here is where my build differs a lot from others. I take this at first, at least until I get better Fury regen, and then I'll switch to Unbridled Rage. But this is really just a stopgap solution to keep us from running out of Fury while we're building ourselves up. You know, usually from 1 to 40-ish. You know, use your best judgment as to when to switch to Unbridled Rage. Don't hang on Gushing Wounds for too long though, because you're not going to be doing much damage by the time you get to tier 3 if you don't switch to this. But for tier 1 and 2, this is king, at least if you ask me. I know a lot of people disagree with me on that one, and no, that's your opinion. That's good. Okay, that's our skill tree, and we use the two-handed mace for both lunging strike and whirlwind. As you can see here, you can shift whatever weapons you want for these abilities. So we got mace and we got mace. The Paragon board I will go over at a later date, and I will include a link in my build guide. But basically, you're going to want to take um, a lot of rare nodes. There's not a lot of legendary nodes going on right now. As far as gear, we want damage resistance on our pants and legs. And as you can see, I have damage reduction from enemies that are bleeding. That is an affixation you're going to take a lot. Another reason to take bleeding. And we use damage reduction while fortified, of course. Another reason to take bleeding is the gear affixations, damage to bleeding enemies. See how that's 30% down there? That's usually a very high number. So we like that as well. As far as aspects go, we use Dire Whirlwind here, Expectant here. I know this isn't upgraded, but I normally use a Magnum Opus at this level, so I kind of just stuck that on there. Berserk Ripping gives us more damage with bleeding enemies. It's a beautiful thing. Another reason we choose bleed. Limitless Rage. A beautiful ability. I'll get into that in a moment. Echoing Fury gives us more Fury regeneration when we are shouting. And this one is super important. Whenever you're in a large group of enemies and shout, this is going to drastically reduce your cooldown. And that creates an awesome mechanic for us, wherein the more monsters we're fighting, the more powerful we get, which just makes this so exciting. I love it. So that'll keep your cooldowns on your shouts pretty darn low. And we use Disobedience on our amulet here because, well, we play in hardcore mode and we like defense. We use Iron Warrior here. Pardon me. No, actually, here we want Might. This this was from my other 50 plus build, but normally we would take Might here in the beginning. Numbing Wrath. This gives us lots of Fortify. Between this and Warcry, we're going to be at full Fortify constantly. Edge Masters, this gives us lots of damage. I'm going to get to that in one moment. Iron Blood gives us more damage reduction with bleeding enemies. Once again, something else to take advantage of bleeding. Now we have Grasping Whirlwind here, which pulls in enemies randomly. I know a lot of people don't like this one, but it's just a personal preference of mine. If you don't like it, use Audacity, which stuns, I think, 4 to 5 enemies every 20 seconds, which is pretty cool. Now, as I was saying about Edge Master and Limitless Rage, these, well, barbarians use especially Whirlwind, use mechanics that have been nicknamed snapshot mechanics. Basically, what happens is, say I have 174 max fury, which isn't a lot right now for this build. It is though. What happens is, say I have Edge Master, right? and I have full fury. That 20%, that's based on my available primary resource. As long as I continue channeling whirlwind, that 20% is going to stay all the way until I stop channeling. So that means as long as you're channeling, you're still going to get the full benefit of that Edge Masters, of that 20%. Same goes for Limitless Rage. So you're going to be you're going to want to fill up your fury to full as much as possible and as often as possible before you start channeling whirlwind to get the max damage out of it. And I think that's it for all of that. And now we'll do a little showcase here to go over a few other things. Let's get right into the action here. All right. Now, um, always run with your elixir of death in hardcore. I'm sure that goes without saying. Now you want to hit your rallying cry usually beforehand, and your challenging shout second usually. I probably didn't do them in the right order there, but right now my Paragon board is spec'd for my one-handed build, so it's not all it could be right now. I didn't respect the Paragon board because, well, I'm kind of broke right now as far as gold goes. Otherwise, we'd be doing a lot more damage. I just noticed that I have my abilities on the wrong hotbar. I did not mean to hit Wrath of the Berserker there. Boy, this is kind of gimped. Yeah, normally you'd be doing a lot more damage than this with the two-handed mace. But for the purposes of our video today, this is fine. I will, of course, include a link to the endgame variant of this, which uses the one-handed swords. As you can see, when you shout with lots of enemies around, it drastically reduces that cooldown, so I only got 7 seconds left to my next rallying cry. And we get a lot stronger when there's more enemies around. We can just keep going and going and going. And I also didn't switch my expertise, which normally I'd be using two-handed mace expertise at this point for added fury generation. But later on, when you're, as you can see, fury generation isn't much of an issue at this point. Later on, you can switch it to two-handed axe for the added vulnerable crit chance, which is a beautiful thing. I know I'm not saving any of these poor prisoners here, but we're just doing a showcase. They'll be okay. I'll get them next time. Now, the only place this is really lacking is in single target trash mob damage. We generally take little monsters like that and drag them into a larger group. At least that's what I like to do. Oh, so you can switch out Wrath of the Berserker for Iron Skin and use that Iron Warrior aspect that I was showing you earlier on my helmet. And that'll give you a second form of Unstoppable, as well as a nice ultimate ability that does lots of damage and helps you regenerate Fury. But earlier on, I like to take Wrath of the Berserker because it's not that dangerous. Oh, geez, I'm going to pay attention here. I'm going to lose out on this Radiant Chest. Yeah, definitely. That's okay. Yeah, normally this stuff would be dying a lot quicker if your Paragon board was where it's supposed to be. No, please. Boo. Well, I think that will do it for this video. Mainly, as I said before, this is a stopgap build until about level 50 when I like to go with the one-handed swords. Um, Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, I will include links to both builds in the description. Thank you very much and have a good day.